Let's get into this story about Joe Manchin. Now, you guys may know that the House has pretty much approved this climate bill. Now, this climate bill is not just about climate. There are other actions involved in this as well. But I have to say this. There are some items that are most likely to either be removed from this bill or not be included in this bill. And I think you're going to want to see what those items are. I told you a little bit about the bill a couple of days ago, but this is going to take a deeper dive into it. And I really want to focus on what they're leaving out of this bill, which I think is important. And then I think you'll understand why Joe Manchin changed his mind and decided to back this bill. Now, there's still the question of Kirsten Cinema. Who knows what she's going to do? She just kind of blows with the wind. But you need to see this. So I want to give a shout out to Case Study QB for this. Always doing great work, of course. A lot of people right now on mainstream media are applauding Joe Biden because they're saying, yes, he's bringing people together. He's able to get Joe Manchin to agree on something here. But what exactly is Joe Manchin agreeing on? Let's check that out. So here we go.
Welcome back. Democrats and the president need a win ahead of the midterms. And this week, they could get one with a Senate vote on a bill brought back to the dead, from the dead, I should say, by Senators Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer. In it, climate provisions, health care changes, tax reforms.
Let's pause there for just a second. So this is what's in: climate provisions, healthcare changes, and tax reforms. The healthcare changes, from what I remember, involve prescription drug prices. They're trying to lower those. Again, I would want Medicare for all and us not have to even worrying about lowering them, because all of those things will be covered under it. But that is something that they're trying to do here. The climate provisions, I believe I discussed those. I didn't feel like they went far enough because, like I said, you know, the things that were mentioned, I feel like those are Band-Aids. If you really want to do these, bold climate improvements, then you would stop funding the military industrial complex, right? You would stop having these never ending wars. You would stop that, because that is the largest single most polluter in the world, not just in the US, in the world. That's why I say it doesn't go far enough. You would have something in there about public transportation, because we don't have great infrastructure in this country. We have major cities in this country that don't have any form of public transportation. We don't have high-speed rail. I didn't see anything about that in there. We need to get people off the road. We need to get people to be able to take public transportation. But the reality is, if you don't have it where you live, then you can't take it. And we need to improve the infrastructure and the public transportation system that we have now. And that would also help with climate. But I didn't see anything about that in there as well. Let's go on with this video, because she's going to go on to tell you what is probably not going to be included, and it is not going to make you guys happy.
If passed, this would be the largest climate investment in U.S. history, aiming to slash 40% of greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030. It includes tax credits for electric vehicles, along with home energy tax credits, and billions for clean energy manufacturing.
Okay, let's look at this for just a second here. 40% drop in U.S. emissions by 2030. It is now 2022. We really needed that 40% drop like today. Really, like today. So it's just, again, it's not enough. And those of you who are really involved in climate activism, you know this is not enough. Electric vehicle tax credits. Again, I have no issue with that, but electric vehicles are also not cheap. Let's be real. So not everyone can afford to buy an electric vehicle. Some companies already give you tax credits for having an electric vehicle, but I digress. Let's move on. Home energy tax credits. Again, those are things that people who have the money to do it can afford to do it. I would love to have like the solar panels, to have all solar energy. I would love that. But those things cost money. So again, it's like, who is this really affecting? Who's going to benefit here? This is not bold. Billions for clean energy manufacturing. Okay. And I mean, these little things here, and if people are bragging about this, this is not something to brag about. These things should have been happening all along. So the fact of dropping emissions by 2030, the emissions need to drop by 40% right now. By 2030, we're already going to be deeper and deeper in this climate mess. So that's something I wanted to point out. She's going to brag about it because that's her job. She's there to prop up the Democrat candidates. That's what CNN does. So just keep that in mind. This is not bold.
It's for clean energy manufacturing. In healthcare, for the first time, Medicare would have the power to negotiate the prices of certain medications. It would also include free vaccines for seniors, and it would extend enhanced subsidies for the...
First of all, let's ask ourselves these questions. First of all, free, I'm going to say jabs because you know how this YouTube is. Free jabs for seniors. Why didn't they have that all along? If you're retired and you're on a fixed income, why are you having to pay for something like that anyway? And why is it only for seniors? You see, this should be for everybody. This should be for everyone. Medicare drug price negotiation. Just lower it. Just cut it. Cut it. Again, this is Medicare drug price negotiation. What's going to be the negotiation, though? Again, you're still giving them all the power. They're still giving Medicare and these insurance companies all the power. You're letting them decide what the price is going to be still. Even though there's negotiation, you're still letting them make the final decision. This is the problem. Affordable Care Act subsidies. All of this could be summed up with just give everybody Medicare for all. Just give everybody health care. All these little baby steps. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. This country is so backwards.
Affordable Care Act coverage for 3 years. On tax reform, the bill would impose a 15% minimum tax on the country's largest corporations, which
it should be more than that. It should be more than 15%. Guys, I want to remind you, Amazon didn't pay any taxes. None. Last year, maybe not last year, but I know for certain 2020, Netflix did not pay tax. What, you're only going to give them 15% after they got off paying nothing for the past couple of years? Does it? What? Let me tell you what 50% means. You ever go to the store and you're shopping for yourself? Let's say you're going to buy, I don't know, a dress, a hat, something, and they have a sale. And the sale says 15% off. Sounds like a good deal. You buy the item, you get up to the register, and then they tell you what the price is, including the 15%, and you realize it's really not much. This is what's happening here. 15%. You can tax them more, they can afford it, and they could pay for it. They've gotten off for free for years.
Which could raise $313 billion over a decade, according to one analysis, would also give the IRS more funding for enforcement. Now, it is worth noting here that the current corporate tax rate is 21%, but companies like Amazon have found various loopholes to get around it. For example,
and who's to say they're not going to find a way to get around it this time? Current corporate tax, you guys see this? Look, the current corporate tax rate right now is 21%. Let me just take you back to what she just showed you. Let me go back to that other picture.
According to one analysis,
15. How did we go from 21 to 15? Did anybody see the problem? A minimum corporate tax of 15%. But the current corporate tax rate she just told you is 21%. What? I want everybody to see this. Let's go back to the 21%. Right there. Current corporate tax rate, 21%.
For example, Amazon paid zero income tax in 2018. What's likely not included in this bill? A lot that many progressives had wanted, including universal pre-K, food aid for kids, paid family sick leave, and you can see so much more. Hearing benefits, affordable housing funding.
Okay, this is the part that I wanted you to see. What is likely out? Universal pre-K, paid family and sick leave, enhanced child tax credit. Remember they cut the child tax credit last time? Affordable housing funding, college tuition assistance, food aid for kids, Medicare hearing benefits. They care nothing about us. Nothing. Everything that would actually benefit the people, that would benefit individuals, out. What they included were things that affect corporations. But everything for us that would actually help us, no, zilch, nada, none. Anybody see the problem? They don't want us to get ahead. They don't want us to succeed. How could you not even, let's say you're not on board with universal pre-K and all that jazz, but how could you not include affordable housing funding? The same people complaining about the tent communities, complaining about the homelessness crisis that we have in this country, they don't want you to be housed because they don't even want to give more money for affordable housing. But they want to kick the homeless people out. College tuition assistance. Well, I could have told you that one wasn't going to happen. They don't even want to cancel student loan debt. All these people are in bed together. The student loan, the predatory student loan companies, the colleges, the government, they're all in bed together. I told you, Sallie Mae came to my job during a presentation. Someone asked them, a student said, how are you going to do this when more people are wanting to have student loans canceled, yada, yada? What if your company fails? Do you know what Sallie Mae said? Those representatives said, we have someone on the Hill that makes sure that companies like us stay put. She said that to an entire classroom of students. They're all in bed together. All of them. This is why nothing is done for us. Food aid for kids. They don't even want to feed the damn kids. Welcome to America. They say at the Olive Garden, when you're here, your family, when you come to America, when you are here, you are on your own because the government doesn't want to give you anything. This is a joke. Now do you see why it was easy for Joe Manchin to change his mind?
College tuition assistance, that's likely left out of this bill. But whether the bill passes may boil down to one moderate lawmaker, Democratic Senator Kirsten Cinema, who hasn't said yet whether she's going to support it. And CNN congressional correspondent Jessica Dean is on the Hill for us. Jessica, Democrats can pass this bill without Republicans through reconciliation, but they have to have every single Democrat on board. So where do things stand right now?
That's right, Anna. So that's the asterisk in all of this, right? You need all 50 Senate Democrats on board with this, as you just mentioned. And so all eyes are now turning to Arizona Senator Kirsten Cinema, who has not publicly commented on any thoughts on this bill. We've been told by her office that she wants to read it. She wants to see what the parliamentarian rules on this, and that then she will make up her mind. But what we do know is that in the past, she has expressed concerns over closing the loophole on something called carried interest, taxing something called carried interest. So does that remain?
Kirsten Cinema, to me, is an absolute clown. I don't know why Kirsten Cinema is even there at this point. Her main role is let's vote against anything that's good for the people. Let's vote against Democrat legislation. I don't know why she's there. I really don't. So let's see what happens, folks. Like I said, again, this is another bill that is mediocre at best. But let's see if Kirsten Cinema stops this from going through. Let's sit back and watch what happens.
A concern of hers. Is that something that she's going to want to negotiate over? Is there room for negotiation? These are all of the questions that we are keeping our eyes on this week as we do look to Cinema to see what she's going to have to say about this bill and what, if any, changes she's going to ask for in this bill, and if Schumer and Manchin will be amenable to making any of those changes. And I also, we heard from Joe Manchin earlier today. He had just gotten back. Remember, he'd been out with COVID while all of this negotiating was going on. We just heard from him a couple hours ago. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
She's the one that negotiated, basically, and no one changed the Medicare negotiations. And they thought that wasn't, and she got involved, and that was great. I support that. She's been very adamant and clear on no tax increases. I take that very seriously. I feel the same way. So I'm hoping that when she reviews and sees it, and she's had time to do that, then we'll see where she is.
You know, they really let this woman have way too much power. They let her and Joe Manchin have way too much power. They really do. The fact that something cannot pass, that something cannot go through because of one person, two people, some rotating villain that'll show up somewhere like the Senate parliamentarian who comes up out of the blue. It's absolutely disturbing. So much for the majority. It just one person, even if you have the majority, that one person can stop everything from getting through. I believe it's set up that way on purpose. Now, there's something else I want to show you in reference to this bill as well with Joe Manchin, because people are saying that this actually may hurt Joe Manchin's support in West Virginia. Can you believe this? Him supporting this bill can hurt his support from people in West Virginia. That's what they're saying right now. I'm going to play this clip from Case Study QB, but I do want to remind you really quickly, you have to know West Virginia does not rank well in education. It's at the bottom of the list in education, at the top of the list when it comes to poverty. I don't know why people in West Virginia continue to vote for this guy. He has done absolutely nothing to help the people. And he is very rich. One of the richest senators. And he's sitting up in his house looking down at everybody else, all the poor people. I don't know why this continues to happen, but listen to this. This is from Case Study QB. Again, shout out to Case, but you have to hear this, you guys. I thought you'd find this pretty hilarious.
I can talk quickly about Manchin. Poppy's reporting on this has been stellar, and I encourage folks to go and follow him. And his latest writings on this are important, saying that Manchin has been negotiating all along. What I am interested to see is how this impacts him in West Virginia, a red state. He has been very popular in that state, but in his recent reportings, he says that back when the larger spending package, the Build Back Better package was out, 60%, nearly 70% of people in West Virginia would support him, but that number would go down to 60% if he were to support some type of negotiated spending plan, which is what we're talking about here. And the question is, why did he do it? And what we see in Washington, love affairs are very transactional, and he went from hero to zero with those on the right. Now he went from zero to hero with those on the left because of this. And it will be interesting to see how Kirsten Cinema supports this and whether or not we get this across the finish line.
Yeah, we're also hearing from the junior senator there in West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito, who says she was surprised by this, that it's bad for the state. We'll see what the fallout is there.
Did you hear that? That the junior senator in West Virginia said that she was surprised by this and that is bad for the state. Bad for the state. West Virginia, where you have people, Paula Jean Swearengin did all of this. If you haven't watched that documentary, Knocking Down the House, Paula Jean Swearengin showed you all the houses where so many people have cancer because of the pollution in West Virginia, because of the companies polluting the air. Poor state, low education, poor education, economically poor. Climate issue should really be of interest to people in West Virginia. And then you have the junior senator there in West Virginia saying, oh, I'm really surprised by this. This is not good for the people in West Virginia. Well, what is good for the people in West Virginia? Is it good for people in West Virginia to be poor? Is it good for people in West Virginia to have to worry about developing asthma and black lung and cancer because of the environment? Is it good for people in West Virginia to go to poor schools? What is actually good for the people there? Because it seems like Joe Manchin is always the voice for the people in West Virginia. I would like to see CNN and MSNBC, I would like to see them talk to people in West Virginia besides Joe Manchin, not these politicians, but the actual people. I cannot believe this. He will lose support for supporting this bill. They want the people there to continue to get sick and die. We have to call it what it is. Now, another issue that I do want to bring up in reference to this as well is whether or not progressives are going to go on board with this. Like I just told you guys, this bill is crumbs. It's not enough. It's not bold. But listen to this. And also, again, Case Study QB, I told you he's killing it. Shout out to Case for this clip as well. I want you to pay attention to the framing in this clip.
Maybe let me start with you. The president now has a few wins. He's got the CHIPS bill. There was some gun legislation as well. How would, let's say, Cinema comes on board, not a guarantee, but the passage of this legislation change the landscape for Democrats going into November?
Well, Victor, the administration, with the help of Democrats in Congress, will make the case to base voters that this is a huge accomplishment, the most consequential action on climate likely ever, and that they are going to see a big improvement in their own rising costs with a new negotiated prescription drug reform. So they're going to be able to campaign on this. There, of course, are going to be progressives in the party who were promising last year that the party needed to pass something far steeper, much broader, and that they would. They were disappointed with that result. And they have been telling the party leaders ever since that the base would simply not turn out. They were so dispirited and so disappointed they would be sitting out the midterm elections. It's going to take a united effort by all corners of the coalition on the Democratic side to paint this package as something very exciting and energizing that voters should turn out and support in November, and we'll see what the result of that is. But they are hopeful, obviously, because of new polling, that a combination of a bunch of bipartisan accomplishments with the anger voters are feeling in their coalition about the Dobbs decision will chalk up to renewed energy and interest in the midterm elections as a whole.
Pay attention to this. Listen to this again. I want you to catch something that she said here.
Maybe let me start with you. The president.
Just going to scoot a little bit further down. There we go.
A new negotiated prescription drug reform. So they're going to be able to campaign on this. They're
going to be able to campaign on this. You heard that? Okay. Keep that in mind. When they contact you and ask you for money and to go out and vote for them, I want you to remember everything on that slide that I told you will be left out.
Of course, are going to be progressives in the party who were promising last year that the party needed to pass something far steeper, much broader, and that they would. They were disappointed with that result. And they have been telling the party leaders ever since that the base would simply not turn out. They were so dispirited and so disappointed they would be sitting out the midterm elections. It's going to take a united effort by all corners of the coalition on the Democratic side to paint this package as something very exciting and energizing that voters should turn out and support.
What did I tell you? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Voters to turn out and support. You know what they're not counting? They're not counting those of us that were a part of the Bernie movement that left that movement. See, in their mind, they're still thinking we're with them. They're still thinking, oh, yeah, you know, AOC and the squad, they'll still get the Bernie supporters to come out and support these Democratic candidates, whether they're corporate or not. They'll be able to pull that base back out and do it again. They're not considering all of us that have said, screw this, screw the two-party system. I'm not voting for any of you. I'm only voting for third-party or independent candidates. They still think that they still got us. They don't realize that Bernie Sanders' base is not as large as it was in 2020 or 2016. And I would say some people actually after 2016 didn't sign on to his 2020 base. I knew people who didn't do that because they felt like Bernie wasn't talking about corruption as much, that he shifted. So if that's what they're expecting, those of us who heavily supported the squad in 2018, those of us who came in and supported like Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush when they ran, if they're expecting that same base to come out, that base has shrank. Sorry. They don't realize that because they don't talk to us. They don't have us on. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know now, she just warned you that they are going to get the progressives in Congress to energize the base and try to get you guys to come out and do this all over again and vote for those corporate Democrats all over again. And they're going to use this bill, if it passes in the Senate, they're going to use this to run on, and they're going to use Roe v. Wade and whatever else comes next before November. But I think they may be surprised come November. What happened to all those people? Where did all those votes go? Where did they go? I don't understand. All these people came out and supported Bernie Sanders and supported AOC. We left, motherfucker. We left. Because you didn't do shit. Because you didn't fight. Because you didn't go in there and have a hostile takeover like we were told you would. So if they're still expecting to see those numbers, I think they're going to be surprised. And I didn't even mention the independents. So good luck. Good luck. Terry says here in Massachusetts, the trains are breaking down like crazy. Yeah, I saw the Orange Line caught on fire. That's not the first time either. You guys, the public transportation system in this country needs a lot of work. Danny said, notice that there aren't any provisions to provide free public transportation. That's right. That's right. Mary says, more for them, more tents for us. She's Black. This capitalist system got most of us celebrating breadcrumbs. You go. You go. Comrade Cam said, what would the college tuition assistance have consisted of, Sabby? One of the ideas on the table was free community college, but that doesn't look like that will happen. They can't even give us free community college. Wow, 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 wow.